Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Smart Hustle Podcast. My name is Ramon Ray. I'm so glad you spent time with me today. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, I'd be grateful for a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, also give a 5-star review. That's okay with me. And here we're at smarthustle.com, where we inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses. And a side note, I must say, we talk about business a lot here. But as we're going to hear today, business is personal and personal is business. They go really hand in hand, I think. So really, I'm so excited for our interview today, talking to Vladimir of Company Folders, who's going to kind of unpack a bit about his business, a bit about how he's grown it. And then we have a current situation, I'll call it, it's probably the wrong word to use, with Ukraine. And we're going to touch on that today as well. So Vladimir, welcome to the Smart Hustle Podcast. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me during this, I'll call it challenging situation, but I'll hear directly from you in a minute how it really is. But thank you, Vladimir, for just being here today and your kindness to open up the door and educate our audience about business, but indeed about what you're going through. So welcome, Vladimir. How are you?
Thank you, Ramon, for having me on. And I got to tell you, your energy is electrifying.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I like to be excited even in times are challenging. That's what my audience expects, because right, you can hear the sound of the voice or see. So that's me. I like to bring the energy on. But Vladimir, so glad you're here today. I'm in the East Coast of the USA, New Jersey, and I'm curious where you at as we record this. Are you inside the US, East or West, or in a country somewhere else? I forgot to ask you that before we went.
I'm in Detroit.
Okay, that's right, Detroit. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Vladimir. So glad you're here. So, Vladimir, tell us a bit about yourself, whatever you wish to reveal, and then, just unpack us. Who's Vladimir, gentlemen, so we can get to know you a bit, and then I'll dive into your company, some lessons, and we'll end on Ukraine. But tell us a bit about who you are and how you got to be the point today being interviewed by Ramon Ray. Give us the summary of that.
So, since we're going to add with Ukraine, might as well start with it also,
Sure.
Because that's where I was born. I was born in Kharkiv, Ukraine. That actually is the city that you see on the news right now, being pretty much leveled, but we'll get back to that later. I came to United States in 1990, and we didn't have anything. We had $476 for between my parents and I, so three of us, and everything was great. Being raised in Soviet Union, right? Back then, it was the Soviet Union, it was communism, it was very different culture and regime than what we have here in America. And when government owns everything, that also means that there is no competition. Because you don't need to compete, right? You own everything. Why would you innovate? Why would you compete? Right. Why would you create different styles? So as the result, as you go to people's houses or you look at people and you see what they use, everybody pretty much has the same things. For example, you go to somebody's house and they all have the same wallpaper. Right. There might be 2, 3, 5 different variations, but not what we have here. Everybody would have, give or take, the same silverware, pots and pans, plates, furniture, everything, right? So you can't really express yourself much. So then I come to America, and oh my God, options and choices are through the roof. Like cheese alone, they have dozens of cheeses at the store. Cereals, first of all, I never heard of a cereal before, and a little funny story on that is when so we came here at night, flew in, and then we knew somebody here, so we stayed at their house. And in the morning they went to work, and the woman, my mom's friend, said, hey, we have a cereal there, so you can just have that in the morning. And she did say that, you just pour milk on it. And I was young, so to me it's like, whatever, you pour the milk. And my mom was like, no, there is no way you can just pour cold milk over cereal. And the cereal was Fruit Loops.
Oh yes. Of course.
So my mom boiled the milk and she puts Fruit Loops in it. And I'm not going to continue because you can already understand what it looked like and what it tasted like. So that was
your mom tried, right? She was taking care of her boy.
Yeah. So that was my very first cereal experience.
That's nice.
But anyways, so So I come to America, all sorts of ways to express yourself. And that's great, right? Like I live in a country where self-expression is the thing.
Yes.
So then I started in 99 with a friend. I started a little computer shop.
Okay.
Where we would help people, repair computers, set up networks, and so on and so forth. Then a friend of mine decided to go to law school. And in year 2003, or maybe even at end of 2002, one of my customers asked me, hey, he said, you're a computer guy. Can you help me get company folders? I said, of course. How hard could that be, right? Internet is at full swing and, it's easy. Plus, we're in America. So I started the research and I realized that the one thing that options are missing in American market is unfolders. And of course, my first thought is, well, they have to fix it.
Right.
And then I'm thinking to myself, who's they?
Yeah.
Who do we even talk to about that, right?
Typical entrepreneurial question.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, am I they?
Yes.
So it turns out I am. For not knowing any better, I named the company Folders because that's how my customer referred to it. And actually, at that moment, I wasn't even sure what company folders were. Turned out it's presentation folders.
Yep.
And I guess the rest is history. We now offer the largest selection in the folder industry, period.
Wow.
When it comes to die cuts, papers, coatings, finishes, and everything else. I can even tell you this funny story. We did this exercise where we took all the different options we offer, right? And we all multiplied them within each other. And turns out we could create over 100 million variations
Wow.
of our product.
Wow. Wow.
So that's what company folders is all about.
Love it. I love it.
We are located in Pontiac, Michigan, right downtown. Beautiful, beautiful place. We have,
I love it. And is that, by the way, where you came when you first came here in the early 90s from Ukraine, or have you moved several places since then?
No, came straight here.
Okay, very nice. I love it.
Had to, the way the process worked, we had to go to Austria, then Italy. We're there for a few months, but in America, we came here and stayed here.
I love it. And how did you start Company Folders? Was that, just talk about curious, the beginning phase? Did you self-fund it? Did you go to family? Did you go to bank? Did you credit card it? What was the first year or two like? Talk about that a bit if you can. What was that like, until today?
I played the 0% interest credit card game.
My man.
For years.
Yes.
So I did everything. I had no money.
Yeah.
And however, I did have good credit.
Yes.
Which helped. And I took out, what I did is I took out a lot of credit cards that offered 0% interest for year and a half. At the time, I don't actually get offers now as much, but at the time I was getting a lot of offers, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of did it all at the same time. So I was able to leverage a lot of money that way. And then I had spreadsheets of each card, how much I owe, how much I'm paying, when the time ends, and then I would open a different account and transfer the balance. And I carried that through, I'm going to say, give or take about 5 years.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, you know what happened? So I ended up with all this crazy debt, right? And we're talking about 2003. Then I met my wife. Well, wife to be in 2004, then we got married. And then my daughter, and then my wife got pregnant in 2007 with my daughter. And up until that moment, I was not really making money. Like I was making a little bit of money, enough to like make minimum payments and stuff, but not really a lot of money. And I remember we were together with my wife's friends. And when we first told them that, we got pregnant and all, and I remember the guy looking at me and he said, dude, you will see when you're expecting a baby, money just comes. And I'm, oh, that's cool. But, I didn't know what that meant.
Yes.
And sure enough, right before the baby was born, I started getting more orders.
Mm.
And that was really, really cool to where like it was significantly more, right? So I
Yes.
still wasn't able to take the money myself. And we had a situation where my wife wanted this chair to feed the baby, and the chair was like $300 or $400, and we could not afford it.
Yes.
And I remember it was eating me on the inside that
Of course.
my wife wants a chair for my baby.
Yes.
So the baby is born, and she was, for whatever reasons, she was C-section. Because of that, my wife had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days. And you know what happened? Within those couple of days, I was able to make the money to buy the chair.
Wow.
And I remember that we came home from the hospital on Saturday. I remember it was Saturday, and we were able to leave the baby with our parents for like an hour while we ran out to the store and bought the chair my wife wanted. So the money does come when you expect a kid.
And I'm curious, Vladimir, and this is more of a psychological question. Do you think the money comes when you expect the kid? I get it. But do you think it's because the drive inside of us entrepreneurs, we have a greater reason to hustle smarter or hustle more? Any inkling to why that happens? I know for me, when I'm in a slump in my business, or when I got pressure, boy, things like take off. Do you think that's maybe why, or some other reason, or is it just nature?
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Are you familiar with the law of attraction?
Yes, absolutely.
I think it has to do with that, right?
Yes.
I've been living my whole life by the law of attraction, even before I learned what law of attraction is. And I think it's you put out this whole gratitude, excitement for what you have, and the more of that you do, the more positive response you get, and the more you get of what you need.
Yes, that is true. I love that. I love that. And I do want to switch definitely to Ukraine and what you're doing there. But if you have time, by the way, do you have about 15 more minutes after the hour? Would that be okay for you? 12, 15?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So curious, I do want to get into how you built company folders. I love to hear the story, and you can talk as long as you want about it. But I guess two things come to mind, and I'll remind you of the questions. But any high points or low points in the journey, if you can share that with us. Hey, Ramon, here's a few main milestones. I'd love to hear about that if there are any. And then two, I find business is simple. It's hard, but meaning there's money, there's marketing or advertising, whatever you want to call it. There's leadership, there's team building. There's a few 4 or 5 basic tenets of business. I'd love for you just to share some of those with us, what you've learned, what you've gone through. Maybe hiring for you is easy. Maybe, Ramon, that's been an easy part. Maybe it was logistics that were harder, if you get what I'm asking. So question one, it's all one question. Can you just take us through the high level journey of company folders from beginning to now? What are some things we can learn from you, if that makes sense?
Wow. So,
and that was a lot, I know.
I started company folders in 2003.
Okay.
And I was still doing computer repair and starting the company folders. And I was doing everything by myself. I had no employees because I couldn't afford anything at the time. I was working 7 days a week, give or take, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. So figure, 17, 18-hour days. And prior to that, I was also a web developer. I was Microsoft certified web developer. So I started the company as an internet company from the get-go, mostly because that's all I knew. And also because at the time, because I was a programmer, I was on internet a lot, which is why I thought that finding amazing company folders would be so easy, right?
Sure. Of course.
But also, at the same time, I met a guy in Ukraine, in Kharkiv, which is my hometown, who was a web designer. And I thought it would be really cool if I was able to leverage somebody, from my hometown, give back and all that. So he was able to create the very first version of the website.
I love it.
And it had a couple hundred pages. He was a beginning designer. So from the code perspective and everything else, it wasn't very clean, but but it was done.
Yes.
It would take me forever to do this, and he was able to do it. And obviously, at the time in Ukraine, it was life was different, so it was very inexpensive.
Yes.
So he did that, and then I started tinkering with it. I started cleaning it up. I started promoting it online, particularly forums, discussion boards. There was no social media back then, and the thing started rolling. And then all of a sudden, several months later, I started getting emails. Oh, I'm looking for, this product with that kind of printing. I'm like, oh my God, these are like real people, even though it comes in email, right? So I wouldn't believe it, and I would call the people to like pretend asking questions.
Yes.
Because I didn't think it was real. Like it was all new, right? Now, outside of that, I would also knock on doors here locally.
Okay.
And I walked around. I had an orange binder that I had samples of the work in that I would show people, and I would try to get orders that way. And then, of course, because I met the designer guy, I would, and then I met a few other ones, I would offer design services as well for them to do. So that was the beginning. From the marketing perspective, I was doing it myself, right? It was the website, pushing it out there. And then when a little bit of money started coming in, maybe a year later or so, I met, once again online, once again in Ukraine, somebody who, it was a company, I guess, and they were doing search engine optimization, SEO. So I engaged with them to do SEO, and through their efforts, they got me ranking at the top of Google pretty much across the board for everything.
Wow.
In a lot of cases, I was number one and number two. Now, the one thing I didn't know is they're doing what's called the Blackhead Seo.
Sure.
Which worked amazing back then. But the result of that was that I ended up with a lot of links from poker, gambling websites, porn websites, directories that were not good, from websites that were just existed strictly for keyword stuffing and stuff, which we will come back to this. Oh, no, actually, we can talk about it right now because you asked for high and low points. So that SEO thing works well. Now, imagine this, my whole company is based on the fact that we have this amazing SEO. We rank at the top of Google. Now it's 2012. In 2008, I hired my first employee. She's still with me.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, more than half the company been with me for over a decade.
That's beautiful.
And now we're talking about March 2012, and we're in a great situation. We have all the orders coming in, right? The company been around for 9 years. And in March, and I think it was March 20, oh my God, I think it was March 22nd or 23rd, just like it is today, we receive a message from Google, which is called unnatural links warning.
Yes.
Turns out Google got smarter and caught on to the fact that we had the Blackhead SEO done.
That's right.
And we lost 76% of our traffic.
Wow. Just like that.
No, not just like that. It happened over like 3 to 4 days.
Well, that's still, that's just like that.
It is just like that.
Yeah.
Wow. And the thoughts that were going through my mind were anything and everything that you would never want to think about.
Sure, I understand.
But the one thing that turned out that I realized is that I had and still have an amazing team of people.
Wow.
Everybody rallied behind
this
whole situation, and we were able to push through it. We had to do a lot of work to get out of this. We also learned an amazing lesson that you can't just count on one marketing channel, especially when that marketing channel depends on somebody else, meaning Google, right? Whether you do it according to their standards or not according to their standards, that is irrelevant. What's relevant is that you have somebody else possibly controlling your fate.
Yes.
So if Google goes out of business, all of a sudden, that's it.
Yep.
Your whole marketing channel is gone and you have nothing else going on. So when we started doing that, we rebuilt in a totally different way. We started establishing myself and the company as the thought leader in the industry, which by now I am. We started the blog, we started social media channels, and that was revolutionary.
Yes, yes.
So it turned out, in retrospect, that at the time the company was like a card house made of cards. It just crumbled, right? But the new thing we rebuilt is a solid. It has a solid foundation. Everything is in place, and it's a grown-up company. And
I love it.
Work. We have not to brag or anything, but if you
brag, it's okay. I give you permission. Brag, please go ahead.
If you look at our Google reviews, we have like 129 5-star Google reviews. Everybody loves what we do, what we offer. We offer the largest selection, as I mentioned before, of different variations for folders, and the customer service is the most important thing.
Wow.
So I believe that the reason people go to work is so that's their vehicle to get paid, so that they can live a beautiful life themselves, right?
Yes. You're exactly right.
I started a business to solve a problem that I found in the market, and ultimately I get paid. And the reason I get paid is so that I can have a good life as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I have interest, I do things. And I believe that that is the most important thing. Business aside, the people is the most important thing in any business, and people's happiness, I think, directly correlates with the success of the business. Yeah. The more you can make those people happy or help them, you cannot make anybody happy, but the more you can help people be happy, the more successful they will make your company. And the way I see it is, as a leader of the company, I am the least important person in here, right? Because I hire amazing people to do great work, to run the company, to grow the company, to take care of our customers. So the only thing that I have to do is I have to make sure my people are happy.
Yes.
And that's what I work on. Do you want to go into the whole Ukraine situation?
Yeah, but I just want to pause. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to pause and I want to say that, man, you're an American hero story, and I can't wait to hug you or shake your hand one day in person. Just hearing you.
Detroit.
I'm going to be there. Just hearing your story, I want to cry. I interviewed thousands of people, but it's always inspiring to hear a story like yourself. It's more than a story. I'm talking to a real human, Vladimir, founder of a company Folder. So Vladimir, just thank you for that part. I want to put a bow on that or a tie on that. It's just inspiring. And I know when my listeners, when my community hear this, it's going to inspire them. That's why I do these interviews, because you can read about it. There's a ton of great books. I have a whole bookshelf full of books, but it's always good to talk to the person, the man or woman who's built it. So it's really, my hat's off to you. I applaud you. And I can't wait to get to know you personally better. Really, you inspire me. So thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to turn the page, a hard turn to Ukraine, to set the stage. In my words, feel free to correct anything I say.
Of course.
What I've heard so far is you started a company, you're from Ukraine, many of your staff members are Ukraine, and now we have this geopolitical, global, it's more than a situation, a cataclysmic event where, again, my words, not yours, so feel free to edit it, but Russia, the few people there, I'm guessing, who are not so great people, are invading another country, and you have your staff members, your team, who I'm assuming have been in trouble. We've seen the news reports. This is a fact. So that's my setting the stage for that. But Vladimir, yes, please talk a bit about, feel free to touch on your version of what's happening. We don't need a whole education because enough outlets are doing that. But then I would love you to touch on what you've done, and lessons we can learn when you wake up in the morning and realize, 7, 10, 15 of my staff, their apartment's bombed, or 3 of my staff, they're not worrying about working. They're worrying about their life. This is what I'm seeing from my perspective. So feel free to take the floor and unpack, again, what your views are on what's happening. You're welcome to touch on that. but then more importantly, the lessons we can learn from you, what you've done to help your staff. I want to hear that too.
So remember, I hired that guy in 2003 to do the first website. Then a year later, I hired another guy to change the website. He made it look much better. And then when a few years later, it came to the point where we needed to redesign the website again. And by then I already had a few employees here and we were going at a little higher rate. I figured we got to hire somebody full time. So that's when I hired Dennis. I think Dennis joined us in 2008 or 9. He's still with me as the developer. And then Anatoly came in, Eugene came in, and other people. So they were in Donetsk, in Ukraine. And in 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine, they ended up in the center of everything. So back then, that whole incident was way smaller than what's going on there now, and it was much easier to handle. I sent them money to help them move to Kharkiv, Ukraine, and they did. So from their perspective, they were living great life. They had their homes, which typically are apartments, right?
Yes.
So think of it as a condo if you buy one. So they have that situation going on, and all of a sudden everything gets destroyed. They move to Kharkiv and they start rebuilding their life over again. So now they own their condo in Donetsk.
Good for them.
Got destroyed, no insurance, complete loss. Moved to Kharkiv, started rebuilding. Few months ago or a month ago, Eugene, who was in Donetsk before, who had his own condo before, buys a condo in Kharkiv. He didn't even have time to remodel it yet, and the war started and it got destroyed again, just now. So now this Russia invades Ukraine. What is it? Almost a month ago, little less, and I have 7 people there on the ground. 4 are in Kharkiv. 1 is in Lviv. 1 is in Dnipropetrovsk, or it's called Dnipro now. And 1 is in Nikolaev, right? So the guy who was in Lviv, which is Polish border, he went across the border literally right away, even before they had that martial law that says that men of serving age cannot go. Right. And his sister was on the other side of the border in Poland. So he just went and he's with her. So thank God I didn't have to worry about him. The others, so what we did was we consulted with a retired Army colonel who gave us general strategies of what happens during the war, right? Like what would be strategic for Ukraine to protect, what would be strategic for Russia to capture, and so on and so forth. And most of it on Ukrainian landscape came down to the river and the bridges.
And because you wouldn't, just to set the stage, Vladimir, you wouldn't know, most of us, especially in America, I think in Israeli, they've had military forces and are veterans, but most of us, peace-loving people, I can barely change my car tire. That I can probably do. Oil, I take it to the oil guy. So I just want to set the stage for my listeners and readers. In peace, we shouldn't have to know all this. So please continue, but just to set the stage.
I'm exactly the same way. I know nothing about army. I know nothing about the war. And here I'm getting all this information. So we started pulling up all the addresses of our guys. And for example, the guy who was in Dnipro, I pull up his address on Google Maps, and I see that he is right by the river, and there are 2 bridges, right? And he's kind of in between them, closer to this one bridge that carries railroads on it. And I'm like, whoa, that's probably very dangerous to be at. And I'm like, Yuri, you have to leave. And he's like, well, it's very quiet here. I'm like, no, you really need to leave because you're very close to the bridge. If Russia comes in, you'd be in the area of all the action.
That's right.
So luckily, his sister lives about 100 kilometers west, and he went to stay with her. And then he sends me a message day or 2 later. He said, wow, you were right. There was a diversion to blow up the bridge. Luckily, they did not succeed. But he would have been there in the middle of it all, right?
Yes.
So that's him. He moved 100 kilometers away. The guy in Nikolaev, unfortunately, did not go anywhere. He has elder parents, and his father is really not in good health, and he could barely walk. So he just stayed to take care of his parents because they couldn't go anywhere. The 4 guys who were in Kharkiv were there through the whole bombing. I would talk to them on the phone, and I would hear bombs falling down, missiles falling down, buildings shaking. In my phone, it sounded as if their whole building was coming down. It was really horrific. The sirens would go off all the time, announcing that, rockets are coming. And during that time, you're supposed to go to a bomb shelter. Now, we're talking about buildings that were built during Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Many years ago. We're talking about 70-year-old buildings. Soviet Union, nobody really cares about anything, corruption everywhere, and there are no bomb shelters. They have basements that could serve as a bomb shelter, but it is humid, it is dirty, there are rats, poor ventilation, horrible air, and to top it off, the entrance is very narrow doorway, which means that if for whatever reason, everybody have to get out right away, they can't.
Not gonna happen.
So it's almost like a human trap.
Yeah.
So for that reason, majority of the people never went to the bomb shelter, and they would stay at home through all the bombing. The one thing they would do is they would lay down on the floor,
right,
in the hallway, to be away from windows.
Yes.
So they stayed there through the whole thing, and then somehow they were waiting for a period of time when they can get out, and the period of time never came. So it just gotten so bad that they said, it doesn't matter what's going to happen now, we're going to go. And luckily, all 4 of them, with their families, wives, kids, and all of that, were able to get out of Kharkiv and go west. So to take it a step further, 2 of those guys were actually able to cross the border and leave the country. So now 3 of my guys are out of Ukraine altogether, which is amazing, but 4 are still in. They are in a safer area where sirens do go off, but not a lot, maybe once or twice a day, which according to them is amazing, peaceful situation. And yes, the airport was bombed the other day, but that's not a big deal, right? That's how they tell me compared to what they had there. They have access to, some kind of food and whatever they need. So that's amazing. And the other thing I did, obviously, in the very beginning, I told them, I said, guys, you have nothing to worry about. Your job will not go anywhere.
Wow.
You will get paid through this whole time, whether you work or not. That's not important. The only thing that's important is for you to be safe and for you to do whatever, make decisions strictly on what's best for you right now. And don't worry about the company. And well, hopefully it's going to be over soon, and we'll be able to resume the business.
Yeah, I hope. I'm curious, Vladimir, can you talk about how many staff members do you have in the U.S. or other parts of the world that are not in Ukraine, or is your entire company, besides Vladimir, everybody's in Ukraine? Can you
No,
understand the context?
So we have 16 or 17 people altogether.
Okay.
And 7 of them are there, and the rest are here.
Okay, so a good number is over there. That is for your business. Until you make adjustments, that initially is hurting. It's not like you have 100 people. That's a significant portion of the company. And I think I know the answer, Vladimir, because I would do the same. But curious, why didn't you tell your team there, hey, listen, here's a few $1,000s. Sorry you're going through this. Good luck. And just hire new people in the U.S. Forget about them. Of course, you're Ukrainian, so in your heart you can't. But meaning, why didn't you have that attitude? Like, hey, so sorry. We have to grow. Here's a few thousand, which is a human thing to do. But don't call me. I'm done. I need to grow my business, and I'm going to sleep. Why not do that?
In general, I do what I think is the right thing to do, which is based on some kind of values
Yes.
core principles of mine, right?
Yes.
I know for a fact that as long as I do the right thing every time, or as long as I do what I think is the right thing all the time, I might not always be in the best situation, but I will never be in the worst situation.
Mm.
And I will probably never be in a bad situation. And we're talking about people who've been with me for over a decade.
Yes.
I watched them, for the lack of a better term, grow up.
Yes, I understand.
I watched them meet girls.
Yes.
I watched them marry those girls.
Yeah.
I watched them have kids. I cannot turn my back on them.
Mm. Yeah. And I wouldn't expect you to either, but I had to ask the question. Vladimir,
Yeah, no, I
anything I didn't,
appreciate it.
yeah, or anything I didn't ask you about this situation? I know we're in the middle of it. It's fluid. Maybe you and I will have a conversation in 30 days or so, but anything I didn't ask you that you want to tell the Smart Hustle community? This is a heart story for sure on its own about Ukraine, and I'm so glad. But anything you want to talk about Ukraine, anything more that I didn't ask you that you wanted to publicly share? That's question one. And or then anything in general that you wanted to share to other peers of business owners. So anything about Ukraine that we should know that's on your heart, and or second, just business overall that you wanted to share with us today?
Yeah, and it's actually 1 and 2.
Okay.
So there is an organization
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Please.
called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization.
I know them well.
It's a worldwide organization. There are chapters in different cities and countries and so on and so forth. And there is EO Detroit. I joined EO 10 years ago in 2012. And over the years, I met a lot of people, contacts. It's an amazing network of really smart, phenomenal people who
It is.
who will help you at any given moment. Like I had situations where I called somebody, "Hi, I'm from EO Detroit, and I have this." There you go. Anything you want.
Yes, like a little club. I know many members in EO.
Yeah, so there you
They're
go.
my friends. Yes, yes.
There you go. So with that said, when this whole Ukrainian war started, EO from every angle jumped in to help. Particularly EO Poland is doing phenomenal job of buying the supplies, taking them to the border, and then volunteers take it to wherever supplies need to go.
Yes.
On our end in US, we raise money for different projects that are going on. Some of it is humanitarian aid for people in Ukraine, right? So you have about 4 million external refugees, meaning outside of Ukraine. And you have about, my understanding is roughly about 10 million internal refugees or people who are misplaced from their homes, and they need anything and everything, right? So there are projects of helping Ukrainians in Romania. Like I just got a list earlier today from Romania, and they need basic stuff. We're talking about toothbrush, toothpaste, diapers, tampons, like personal hygiene items that they don't have, toilet paper, and so on and so forth, right? So I already have a couple contacts here and gathering those items that we'll be sending over there. We also raise money, and the money was sent directly to our contacts in Poland and Romania and Berlin, who are all EO members. Everybody's successful. Nobody needs the money itself, right? So there is no administrative fee. There are no salaries. Everything goes directly to buy those supplies, deliver them to the border so that volunteers can take them further. Some of the money goes to setting up shelters for kids, for families, for women with kids, so that they have somewhere to sleep. Believe it or not, some money goes to buy heaters to provide some kind of warmth for those people, because buildings are just, a lot of them stay in buildings right now that have no windows.
And that's cold.
Winter.
That's cold. Yes. I can remember how it is to open my door, just taking my trash out, going. So
Yeah.
I just want to remind people, those of us in the US, especially in a very developed country, many of us have never been that way. Our parents may have had, our grandparents, but just remind people, that sounds like a small thing. Oh, we can go to Home Depot and buy one. No, when it's cold,
right.
Think of those days. You want a heater.
And it's not like Florida.
Yes, yes.
It's more like New York or Detroit.
That's right.
It's cold.
And how do we connect, Vladimir? What's the website, or give us the details that we should know to contribute? Give us those details, please.
So originally, at the very beginning of the war, it was literally people sending money to me directly, and I sent it there.
Sure.
But now we started a nonprofit
Okay.
organization. We're in the process of applying for 501c3 status. It is called, the organization itself is called Love Without Borders.
Okay.
But under that organization, the project that we're running is called realhelpforukraine.org. So
realhelpforukraine.org.
Yep. So if you go to that website, realhelpforukraine.org, right now we have 6 different projects there.
Okay.
That we're collecting money for, and that money gets, and when you donate, you can actually select which project you're donating the money to. There's a little drop down from PayPal. The only thing is, for whatever reason, doesn't work well. So few projects are not visible.
Sure.
So you have to use the arrow key on your keyboard to actually scroll down.
Okay.
And then you can see them all. And you select the project you want. We get notification that money came in for that project, gets allocated and sent to wherever it needs to go.
I love it. And I just want to say, I don't know if we'll use this for this interview or I'll cut it and use it separate. But again, everybody, this is Ramon Ray. We're talking to Vladimir, who's the president of Company Folders, and was born in Ukraine. He's a American, Ukrainian, whatever you want to call it. But he just talked about a foundation he has, a group he has, Real Help for Ukraine, realhelpforukraine.org, part of a larger organization that probably helps a lot of people around the world. But in this case, as we say in many strategies like this is Ukraine's term, or as we often say lovingly, we are all Ukrainian during this time. So again, I hope you take notice of this, realhelpforukraine.org, realhelpforukraine.org. We've been talking to Vladimir. Vladimir, thank you for that. Anything else you wanted to say, Vladimir, before we pause this discussion? I'll save it because I definitely want to talk to you again. But anything else?
Well, I appreciate your yellow sweater with the blue painting above you.
You're so good eye. I didn't even realize that. You're welcome. You're welcome. But no, Vladimir, you're definitely a gentleman I can't wait to get to know better and learn from and grow with together. We're in 2 different industries, but we both serve business, and I'm sure you have a lot of small businesses there in some ways. So hey, Smart Hustle and Company Folders, we'll see. But Vladimir, thank you so much. One more time, give us your full name of your company, website. Just give us that one more time, please.
Vladimir Gendelman, Company Folders Inc. is the company. And the website is www.companyfolders.com.
I love it. And again, everybody, this is
Ramon Ray. We are a printing
Good.
company specializing in presentation folders, binders, and envelopes.
Good. Excellent. Company specializing in binders. Say that one more time, Vladimir, because I cut you off. Say it again.
Presentation folders, binders, and envelopes. And we offer the largest selection of die cuts and different finishes and papers that are used for presentation folders anywhere.
I love it. And as in-person events in the US or anywhere, of course, my focus is the US, come back, folders look pretty good on tables. You go to those conference rooms at hotels and you see 1,000 seats, 10,000 seats, 50 seats. Many of my friends use folders. A good folder looks nice on the seats as you come into the room. That's just one small example. But everybody, what were you going to say, Vladimir, please?
And the more digital we go, the more important print becomes. That's because true. People get less of it. Like if you think about the amount of junk mail you get in your actual mailbox, is way down compared to what it used to be. And because of that, I bet you now, when something does come in, you actually look at it.
That's right.
Because you don't have too many of them. That's and right. You're like, oh, what is that card? Yeah. Oh, okay, so they offer lawn care, whatever, right? But the print is way more effective now. The digital is
absolutely. No, you're right. You're right. Everybody's TikToking, and it's refreshing to get a piece of paper. But Vladimir, thank you for being with us today, everybody. Again, this is Ramon Ray, founder of smarthustle.com, where we inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses. We love to talk about business, but as we heard today, business is personal. Business is personal. And today, Ukraine's going through some pretty jacked up situations. And let's see what we can do to help Ukraine. But also, we've learned some great insight. What a nice interview from Vladimir today with Company Folders. But listen, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and Vladimir's voice, seeing us on video, please give us a 5-star review on the podcast platform you're hearing or wherever you're hearing us. Do some commenting. We love some comments as well. If you don't like what you're hearing, still give some comments and give some 5-star reviews. But all we do is inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow successful businesses. So thank you. thank you all. Vladimir, thank you. And thank you all for listening and being a part of the Smart Hustle community.